Abrahamsen forced his way into the bedroom with his camera. Bergmann, Monson, Reuter, and Abrahamsen's colleague from forensics, Bergmann could never remember his name, all remained standing silently in the dark hallway. A minute later, Abrahamsen reappeared. He'd been thrown out of the bedroom, and a brief quarrel arose. Reuter intervened to stop it.
"I have to know what position she's in," said Abrahamsen as he was pushed across the hall by a massive EMT.
"Trying to save her life, if that means anything at all to you, Georg."
Reuter appeared to have gotten his resting pulse back. Abrahamsen loosened his grip on the camera. Reuter went back into the room with the two of them and evidently worked out an amicable arrangement, or at least so it seemed, as Abrahamsen remained in the bedroom. After putting on shoe protectors and a hairnet, Bergmann spent the next 5 minutes walking around the apartment. He started in the kitchen, which appeared to be completely new. The modest contents of the cupboards appeared to confirm his initial impression that the apartment was used for quite different purposes than a residence. A few plates and long-stem glasses, wine glasses, champagne in the refrigerator. Nothing edible. The countertops were bare. The perpetrator might have taken anything that could lead them to him, but that seemed unlikely. He cast a glance out the kitchen window toward the back courtyard. A lamp shone down by the entryway into a couple of windows. The curtains in the bedroom had probably been drawn, and there was almost certainly a light-proof blind or something like it as well. For a couple of seconds, everything seemed completely hopeless, as if this winter would be the last one, that there would never be another summer. He shook his head as Reuter came into the room with 2 patrol officers and Hallgeir Sorvag. Reuter had a bundle of forms in his hands.
"Neighborhood canvas," he said.
There were sounds in the hall, and a stretcher came into view. Bergmann went to have a look at the slight woman, no, the young girl with the oxygen mask over her mouth. The blanket they had placed over her was already drenched with blood. Remnants of duct tape were visible on her wrists, and her eyes stared stiffly up at the ceiling, as if she were already dead. 4 or 5 EMTs and a doctor followed the stretcher, one of whom held a bag of blood, another securing the cannula that was inserted in her forearm. God only knew what she looked like under the blanket. Bergmann felt a shiver down his spine, and his whole body shook uncontrollably for a moment. The sight of the girl made him feel that all this was his fault, that he was to blame for everything that had happened to her. Everyone in the apartment paused while the ambulance personnel left the apartment, listening until there were no more sounds in the stairwell, and the curt commands to and from the ambulance service had died away. The quiet did not last long. One of the neighbors started screaming frantically on one of the floors below. She had probably seen the stretcher being carried down the stairs, the blood transfusion, the young white doll face. Just like Christiane, thought Bergmann. "I need to take a look at your pictures," he said to Abrahamsen, who handed him the camera. He clicked over to the display screen. How young could she be? She had to be one of the youngest prostitutes in the city. Bergmann felt an almost uncontrollable fury rise inside him. When he got hold of the man who had done this, and the men who had brought this young girl into the country because he was quite sure she wasn't Norwegian, he would pound the life out of them with his own hands. She must have been tied up by her wrists against the headboard on the bed. At least, that's what it looked like. The tape over her mouth had been pulled off and hung slackly from her cheek. It would take him many weeks to forget what the rest of her looked like. "Fucking bastard," he said to himself. He had to walk around the room a few times and catch his breath. He was on the verge of pounding his fist into the wall, splintering the double doors with his skull and kicking down everything that was in the white-painted room: chairs, dining room table, a TV, a bookcase. He went into the bedroom last, after all the others had already gone in, as if the situation were more dangerous for him than for them. A large double bed occupied the middle of the room. Sure enough, remnants of grey tape hung from the wrought iron posts at both the head and foot of the bed. It was me and the first